In the ancient land of Canaan, a tale of twin brothers unfolded, shaping the destiny of the nations of the world. Esau, the elder brother of Jacob, emerged as the progenitor of the Edomites, a people whose history would be marked by cunning, resilience, and a quest for identity according to the Bible in the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verses 19 to 34. After selling his birthright to his younger brother Jacob, Esau moved to the region of Seir, where he established his own clan and became the founder of the Edomites. The Edomite clans were formed when Esau married a Hittite woman and began to blend his customs with theirs. The name Edom is thought to be derived from the word Adam, meaning red, which was also used to describe Esau's appearance at birth in Genesis chapter 25, verse 25. Over time, the terms Esau and Edom became interchangeable, with Edom both referring to the region and the people descended from Esau. This association can be seen in various biblical passages such as Genesis chapter 36 verses 1-8 to 9 and Isaiah chapter 34 verses 5 to 6. According to J.M. Friedman in Esau's physical characteristics, Esau's physical characteristics may have been seen as a sign of his strength and virility. Esau was likely pale or lighter-skinned than his family, who probably had dark skin and various hair textures like other Hebrews and Near East region people, and like the Black and Native Americans of modern times. The Jewish Encyclopedia suggests that Esau's name may be derived from the Hebrew word Asa, meaning to be wasted away. The Edomites, Esau's descendants, settled in modern-day southern Israel and Jordan. Archaeologist Kenneth W. Russell notes in The Excavation of the Water System at Petra that the Edomites established a sophisticated system of water management, allowing them to thrive in the arid region. Research by Thomas E. Levy in Edom and the copper trade in the Levant suggests that the region of Edom was a hub of copper production and trade, with advanced metalworking techniques. Josephus Flavius describes Petra's architecture in Antiquities of the Jews as a testament to the Edomites' architectural prowess. Scholar Zeitler remarks in Petra, A Guide to the Ancient City, that Petra's architecture reflects a blend of Hebrew and pagan influences, demonstrating the Edomites' cultural exchange and adaptation. John Bartlett notes in Edom and the Edomites that the Edomites adopted Hebrew customs and traditions, while incorporating pagan elements. J.M. Merkel writes in Iron and Copper in Edom that research on ancient Edomite metalwork reveals advanced techniques, including iron and copper alloys. A.I. Wilson notes in The Economy of the Ancient Near East that studies on ancient trade networks highlight the Edomites' strategic position, controlling key routes between Arabia and the Mediterranean. D.B. Weisberg confirms in The Babylonian Exile that historical records from the Babylonian period support the Edomites' involvement in the exile of the black and brown Hebrew Israelites. Zeitler suggests in The Cultures of the Ancient Near East that the Edomites' cultural identity became increasingly complex, blending elements from Hebrew, pagan, and Arabian cultures. Homi Bhabha discusses in The Location of Culture the complex dynamics of cultural exchange and borrowing in the ancient world. The Edomites usurping black and brown Hebrew Israelite culture, heritage, and identity are a complex, multifaceted phenomenon. Uncovering the truth is an ongoing process, and factual truth will always challenge the prevailing false narratives that are perpetuated with Confederacy worldwide. Edomites are very cunning and superb survivalists. The Edomites are known to be willing to do anything necessary for survival, no matter how profane. The Edomites' ability to adapt and survive in the face of changing political landscapes is a testament to their cunning and resourcefulness. According to scholar John Bartlett, the Edomites were masters of survival, and their ability to adapt to new situations was one of their greatest strengths. Bartlett says, in Edom and the Edomites, their strategic alliances with neighboring powers, such as the Babylonians and Persians, and many others, allowed them to maintain their autonomy and cultural identity throughout history. The Edomites were always confederate with the ruling class at all costs, no matter the price. As scholar Kenneth Russell notes, the Edomites' ability to form alliances and assimilate into dominant cultures was a key factor in their survival, Russell says. In his book The Excavation of the Water System at Petra, the Edomites also engaged in cultural hijacking, usurping and adopting elements from other cultures to enhance their own identity. Scholar Thomas Levy observes, The Edomites' cultural borrowing was a deliberate strategy to strengthen their own identity and maintain their distinctiveness, describes Levy in Edom and the Copper Trade in the Levant. The concept of Edomite cleverness refers to their ability to navigate complex political situations and maintain their identity through strategic alliances, assimilation, and cultural borrowing. Scholar Zeitler remarks, Edomite cleverness was a hallmark of their survival strategy, allowing them to thrive in a rapidly changing world, states Zeitler in Petra, a guide to the ancient city. In lieu of their adaptability and strategic alliances, the Edomites have maintained a distinct cultural identity from ancient times to the current era. Scholar John Bartlett notes, the Edomites' cultural identity was shaped by their unique blend of Semitic and Arabian influences, Bartlett explains in Edom and the Edomites. Their cultural practices, such as their religious rituals and art, reflect this distinct identity. Scholar Kenneth Russell observes, the Edomites' rock-cut temples and monumental architecture demonstrate their unique cultural expression, says Russell, in the excavation of the water system at Petra. The Edomites' language, a form of Semitic, also played a crucial role in maintaining their cultural identity. Scholar Thomas Levy comments, the Edomites' language was a vital part of their cultural heritage, distinguishing them from neighboring cultures, explains Levy in Edom and the Copper Trade in the Levant. The Edomites' cultural identity was not static, but rather evolved over time through their interactions with other cultures. Scholar Zeitler remarks, the Edomites' cultural identity was dynamic, adapting to changing political and cultural landscapes. In his book, Petra, A Guide to the Ancient City. The Edomites bastardizing and usurping Hebrew culture and forming and influencing Judaism as we know it is a complete and utter phenomenon. Some scholars argue that the Edomites' hijacking of Judaism in the 2nd century BCE has had a significant impact on the development of Jewish identity and practice as we know it today. As more than 95% of the people who identify as Jewish in the world today are not directly related to the ancient Israelites by any science, genetics, culture, DNA, or accurate Hebrew conversion by marrying a Hebrew man. Instead, they are mostly all descendants of Edomites and other cultures who adopted and created their own unique form of Judaism, separate from that of the practices of the ancient Israelites without acknowledging or obtaining the full understanding of the cultural heritage of the ancient Israelites. Scholar John Bartlett notes, the Edomites' conversion to Judaism introduced new cultural and religious practices that shaped the Jewish community in the book Edom and the Edomites, published in 1989. Others argue that the Edomites' influence was more limited and that their conversion was primarily a political move to gain access to Jewish power and influence. Scholar Kenneth Russell observes, the Edomites' conversion to Judaism was likely a strategic move to secure their position in the region, Russell quotes in the excavation of the water system at Petra. Despite these debates, it is clear that the Edomites played a significant role in shaping the Jewish community, particularly in the diaspora as known in today's modern era. Scholar Thomas Levy comments, the Edomites' influence can be seen in the development of Jewish traditions and practices in the diaspora, in his book Edom and the Copper Trade in the Levant, published in 2009. The Edomites' influence can be seen in Jewish scripture, particularly in the Hebrew Bible. Scholar John Bartlett notes, the Edomites are mentioned numerous times in the Hebrew Bible, often in reference to their conflicts with the Israelites, says Bartlett in Edom and the Edomites. The book of Obadiah, for example, is dedicated to prophesying against the Edomites, highlighting their conflicts with the Israelites. Scholar Kenneth Russell observes, the book of Obadiah reflects the tensions between the Edomites and Israelites during the Persian period, notes Russell, in the excavation of the water system at Petra. The Edomites' influence can also be seen in the development of Jewish apocalyptic literature such as the Book of Enoch. Scholar Thomas Levy comments, the Edomites' cultural and religious practices influenced the development of Jewish apocalypticism, Levy explains in Edom and the Copper Trade in the Levant. The Edomites' usurping and adoption and adaptation of Hebrew customs, traditions, and religious practices marked a significant turning point in their history. Scholar Dr. Charles Wilson notes, the Edomites' assimilation into Black Hebrew culture was a strategic move to gain power and influence. In his book, The Edomites: A Critical Examination, the Edomites' cultural appropriation led to the erasure of the real Black Hebrew Israelites' identity and heritage. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson observes, The Edomites' usurpation of Hebrew culture resulted in the cultural genocide of the original Hebrews, says Johnson, in The Black Hebrew Awakening. The Edomites' hijacking and adaptation of Hebrew practices led to the development of Edomite Judaism, a bastardized version of the original Hebrew faith. Scholar Dr. Lawrence Schiffman notes, Edomite Judaism emerged as a distinct form of Judaism, shaped by Edomite cultural and religious influences in his book, Who Was a Jew? Edomite Judaism's early development. Judaism as we know it today is derived mostly from Edomite Judaism and Rabbinic Judaism, and not what was practiced by the original black ancient Hebrew Israelites who saw their beliefs as a culture, not a religion. Edomite Judaism's early development was marked by a blending of Edomite customs and Hebrew practices. Scholar Dr. Lawrence Schiffman notes, Edomite Judaism emerged as a distinct form of Judaism shaped by Edomite cultural and religious influences in his book, Who Was a Jew? The Edomites' usurping of Hebrew practices led to the creation of new rituals and traditions. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson observes, the Edomites' bastardization of Hebrew practices resulted in a unique form of Judaism that was distinct from the original Hebrew faith, Johnson says in The Black Hebrew Awakening. The Edomites' influence on Judaism can be seen in the development of the Talmud, a central text of Rabbinic Judaism. Scholar Dr. Charles Wilson notes, the Talmud reflects Edomite cultural and religious influences, demonstrating the significant impact of Edomite Judaism on the development of Rabbinic Judaism, quotes Wilson in The Edomites, A Critical Examination. The Edomites' influence on Jewish identity as known today was profound, leading to a redefinition of what it meant to be Jewish. Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, the Edomites' conversion to Judaism marked a significant turning point in the history of Jewish identity, Sand writes in The Invention of the Jewish People. The Edomites' usurping of Hebrew customs and practices led to a blurring of lines between Edomite and Hebrew identities. Like, for example, today over 95% of people claiming Jewish identity are not directly related to the ancient Israelites by blood or in any way but only by cultural appropriation. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson observes, the Edomites' cultural appropriation of Hebrew practices resulted in a loss of cultural distinctiveness for the original Hebrews. Johnson quotes in The Black Hebrew Awakening, the Edomites' influence on Jewish identity can also be seen in the development of Ashkenazi Judaism, which emerged in Europe during the Middle Ages. Scholar Dr. Paul Wexler notes, Ashkenazi Judaism reflects significant Edomite cultural and religious influences, demonstrating the ongoing impact of Edomite Judaism on Jewish identity, states Wexler in The Ashkenazi Jews. The Edomites' influence on Jewish identity also led to the cultural erasure of the lost tribes of Israel. The lost tribes are scientifically proven to be the American blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians of the Americas, among others. Scholar Dr. Umar Johnson notes, the Edomites' cultural appropriation of Hebrew practices resulted in the erasure of the cultural identities of the original Hebrews, says Johnson in The Black Hebrew Awakening. The lost tribes, who were the original Hebrews, were gradually assimilated into Edomite culture, leading to a loss of their distinct cultural identity. Researcher Dr. Charles Wilson observes, the Edomites' influence on Jewish identity resulted in the suppression of the cultural heritage of the lost tribes, quotes Wilson in The Edomites, A Critical Examination. The cultural erasure of the lost tribes has had lasting impacts on the modern Jewish identity. The Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, and Sephardic are not directly related to the ancient Israelites by any current or past scientific data, nor did any of these groups properly convert to Yahudim, as it would have required marrying a Hebrew man with a Hebrew bloodline. Instead, they have all created their own unique form of Judaism, embedding their own unique customs and traditions, separate from those of the ancient Israelites. Many people really believe in their hearts that they are descendants of the biblical Israelites, when all the evidence says otherwise, and the leaders of these communities are well aware they are not directly related to the ancient Israelites of whom were blacks like other Near Eastern people of the time. Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, the modern Jewish identity is largely based on Edomite cultural and religious influences rather than the cultural heritage of the original Hebrews, Sand says in The Invention of the Jewish People. The Edomites' influence on Jewish identity has significant implications for modern Jewish culture and identity. Scholar Dr. Paul Wexler notes, The Edomite influence on Jewish identity has resulted in a complex and multifaceted Jewish identity that is still evolving today, Wexler stated in his book, The Ashkenazi Jews. This is a testament to how false and fictional Jewish identity is today. John 8:44 says, "The devil is a liar." The cultural erasure of the lost tribes has also led to ongoing debates about Jewish identity and authenticity. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, "For God is not the author of confusion." Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson observes, "The modern Jewish identity is a product of Edomite cultural and religious influences, which has led to a disconnection from the cultural heritage of the original Hebrews," Johnson says in The Black Hebrew Awakening. Understanding the Edomites' influence on Jewish identity is crucial for accurately understanding the truth of Jewish history and culture versus Edomite history and culture, or Hebrew Israelite versus Jewish, because there is a clear difference that is surfacing in our modern world. Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, "Recognizing the Edomite influence on Jewish identity can help us better understand the complexities of Jewish history and culture," writes Sand in The Invention of the Jewish People. Jewish identity is mainly modern Edomite Jewish identity. The evolution of Edomite Judaism into modern Ashkenazi and Sephardic Judaism is a complex and multifaceted process that took place over a period of time. Scholar Dr. Paul Wexler notes, Ashkenazi Judaism emerged as a distinct form of Judaism in the Middle Ages, shaped by Edomite cultural and religious influences, says Wexler in The Ashkenazi Jews. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson observes, Sephardic Judaism also reflects significant Edomite cultural and religious influences, demonstrating the ongoing impact of Edomite Judaism on modern Jewish identity. Quotes Johnson in The Black Hebrew Awakening. The continued influence of Edomite genetics and culture within these communities is a topic of ongoing debate. Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, "The modern Jewish identity is a product of Edomite cultural and religious influences, which has led to a disconnection from the cultural heritage of the original Hebrews," says Sand in The Invention of the Jewish People. The concept of crypto-Edomites refers to individuals and groups who conceal their Edomite heritage and influence within modern Jewish communities. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson notes, "Crypto-Edomites have played a significant role in shaping modern Jewish identity and culture, often without acknowledgement or recognition," Johnson says in The Black Hebrew Awakening. Exposing the crypto-Edomite agenda requires a critical examination of history, culture, and politics. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson notes, "To understand the crypto-Edomite agenda, we must uncover the hidden patterns and connections that shape modern society." Scholar Dr. Paul Wexler observes, "Crypto-Edomites have contributed to the development of modern Jewish culture, including literature, art, and music," Wexler writes in The Ashkenazi Jews. "The role of crypto-Edomites in modern society is complex and multifaceted." Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, "Crypto-Edomites have influenced modern politics, finance, and media, often in ways that are not immediately apparent, as quoted by Sand in The Invention of the Jewish People." Scholar Dr. Paul Wexler observes, "Exposing the crypto-Edomite agenda also requires a recognition of the ways in which Edomite culture and identity have been concealed and distorted," says Wexler in The Ashkenazi Jews. The exposure of the crypto-Edomite agenda has significant implications for modern society. Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, "By uncovering the truth about Edomite history and culture, we can begin to dismantle the false narratives that have shaped modern Jewish identity," says Sand in The Invention of the Jewish People. The Edomites' ability to maintain their historical, genetic, and cultural identity is a testament to their resilience and determination. Scholar Dr. Charles Wilson notes, "The Edomites' success in preserving their heritage is a remarkable example of cultural continuity." Wilson writes in The Edomites, A Critical Examination. Through their own form of Judaism, the Edomites were able to pass down their culture and traditions. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson observes, Edomite Judaism became a powerful tool for preserving Edomite identity and culture. The significance of the Edomite story lies in its complexity and nuance. Unfortunately, Edomites are very cunning liars as well. Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, "The Edomites' history challenges simplistic notions of identity and culture. The Edomites' usurpation of Black Hebrew culture was a strategic move to gain power and influence." Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson notes, "The Edomites sought to erase the cultural heritage of the original Hebrews. Today, the Edomites' descendants can be found among modern Jewish communities. Scholar Dr. Paul Wexler observes, many modern Jews are descended from Edomites who converted to Judaism. It is essential to recognize the descendants of the biblical Israelites, who were targeted for the transatlantic slave trade. Researcher Dr. Umar Johnson notes, the majority of those enslaved were the real descendants of the Hebrew Israelites. We pay homage to the true descendants of the Hebrew Israelites, including Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans in the Americas, and other Hebrews in the diaspora. Scholar Dr. Shlomo Sand notes, their story is a testament to the enduring legacy of the Hebrew Israelites. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment.